If you could all take your seats, we're about to start shortly. Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We convene this conference today during very difficult times for the region, with many ongoing conflicts and disputes that have a dangerous effect on the lives and well-beings of everyone in the region and with global implications, and one that evidently threatens the protection of journalists while doing their job. Many United Nations bodies, international organizations, and advocacy groups have stressed for years that freedom of opinion and expression are essential prerequisites for progress and development. Pursuant to that, free media works towards building inclusive societies and democracies of knowledge, both of which are pivotal for the promotion of intercultural dialogue, peace, and good governance. To achieve that, we must pay particular attention to the promotion of independent and pluralistic media. Pluralistic, uncensored, unobstructed, and free media that are able to comment on issues and inform public opinion without censorship and restraint. And they are indispensable in any society. Content that is not only produced, but also easily accessed by the public. In an effort to address the challenges facing freedom of opinion, expression, and access to information, the National Human Rights Committee of Qatar, in cooperation with the International Federation for Journalists and the International Press Institute, are pleased to welcome you here today to our international conference on freedom of expression, facing up to the threat. We convene here amongst leading international organizations that stand as the vanguard for human rights and press freedom, esteemed institutions, renowned journalists and academics in the field, various national and international unions to tackle very important threats facing the fundamental right to freedom of expression. During these 2 days, we will discuss the enforcement of international human rights law instruments and procedures with regards to freedom of opinion and expression and access to information. Also, we will discuss recommendations on protecting and supporting journalists and the promotion of pluralistic, independent, and free media. By the end, we hope to determine sufficient solutions to remedy the situation and help create a better environment for freedom of expression. I give the word now to Mr. Mohammed al-Nassour, the Chief Middle East and North Africa at the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. The Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights is a strategic partner for the NHRC, having partnered on multiple international conferences, the last falling this past February, the International Conference on Human Rights Approach to Conflict Situations in the Arab region. And the MENA office specifically plays a crucial role in protecting and promoting human rights in the region and has a huge responsibility, especially during these difficult times. Mr. Mohammed al-Nassour.
شكرا جزيلا لهذه التقديمة. سعادة الدكتور علي المري رئيس اللجنة الوطنية لحقوق الانسان، السيدات والسادة الحضور، تحل علينا قريبا الذكرى السبعون لتبني الإعلان العالمي لحقوق الإنسان، والذي يعتبر أبرز علامات الإجماع الأممي على عالمية حقوق الإنسان وارتباطها بالسلم والأمن والتنمية، وهي الأعمدة الرئيسية التي قامت عليها الأمم المتحدة بعد الحرب العالمية الثانية. ونحن إذ نستعرض اليوم أوضاع حقوق الإنسان في مختلف دول العالم، نلاحظ أنه وبعد 7 عقود من الإعلان العالمي لحقوق الإنسان ما زالت الدول تبتعد وبشكل متسارع عن الالتزام بمبادئ حقوق الإنسان. وهذا الأمر لا ينطبق فقط على المنطقة العربية، ففي السنوات الأخيرة وتحت ضغوط الأزمة السورية وتزايد أعداد اللاجئين في الدول الغربية تنامت المشاعر المعادية للاجئين وازداد خطاب الكراهية للأجانب في ظل تنامي خطر الإرهاب الدولي، مما أعطى الذريعة للتوسع في استخدام وسائل حماية الأمن الوطني على حساب احترام حقوق الإنسان. ومع إيماننا بأهمية الأمن لحماية تمتع جميع الأفراد بالحريات والحقوق، إلا أننا نعتبر أن احترام حقوق الإنسان جزء لا يتجزأ من المنظومة الأمنية المستدامة، وبالتالي فإن المنطق الذي يقايض توفير الأمن بالتخلي عن حقوق الإنسان هو منطق لا نتفق معه بتاتا. وجاءت الأحداث التي اجتاحت المنطقة العربية منذ عام 2010 وما تلتها لتبين أن الحكومات لم تلبي طموحات الشعوب العربية التواقة للعيش بحرية وعدالة وبعيدا عن العوز، حيث نشهد اليوم ازديادا متسارعا لتغليب منطق الأمن على حساب حقوق الإنسان. فبدلا من معالجة الأسباب التي دفعت الشعوب للتظاهر، يتم التضييق على أي مساحة لحرية الرأي والتعبير وابتكار السبل والوسائل للتحكم بأي فضاء ديمقراطي توفره تكنولوجيا الاتصالات الحديثة. إن حرية التعبير إنما هي حق شمولي ومتعدد يتضمن عناصر عديدة مثل حرية الإعلام وحرية الصحافة ووسائل الإعلام على وجه الخصوص، وهذا الحق يتضمن الحرية في استقاء المعلومات والأفكار وبغض النظر عن الحدود والحواجز. وتستند هذه الحرية أيضاً على حرية الرأي وترتبط بها ارتباطاً وثيقاً، وكذلك هي حرية تمتد من حرية الأفراد في التعبير عن آرائهم إلى الحرية المؤسسية التي تتمتع بها وسائل الإعلام. الزميلات والزملاء، وإننا إذ نؤكد على ضرورة حماية حرية التعبير وعدم التعدي عليها، فإن السلطات بدلاً من مناقشة الرأي الآخر تلجأ إلى إغلاق المنابر الإعلامية، وفي بعض الأحيان يتم محاسبة الأفراد بمجرد التعبير عن تعاطفهم أو إبداء مشاعرهم تجاه قضية ما، وهو ما يعتبر انتهاكاً صريحاً للمادة 19 من الإعلان العالمي لحقوق الإنسان. وفي المطالبات لإغلاق شبكة الجزيرة، فقد أشارت له المفوضية السامية لحقوق الإنسان من أنه قد يشكل سابقة خطيرة، حيث قد تلجأ في المستقبل دولة أو مجموعة من الدول للمطالبة بتقييد حرية الرأي والتعبير في دول تختلف معها بشكل أو بآخر. وبالتالي فإننا نكرر موقفنا بضرورة تحييد الحقوق والحريات، وبشكل خاص حرية التعبير والرأي، عن أي خلاف دولي أو إقليمي. ومما لا شك فيه أننا قد نتفق في بعض الأحيان ونختلف في أحيان أخرى مع التغطية الإعلامية للقنوات الإخبارية المختلفة، ومنها قناة الجزيرة الناطقة بالعربية والإنجليزية أو الإنجليزية، إلا أن الحكم النهائي على مصداقية الجزيرة أو غيرها هو للمشاهد والمتلقي الذي يملك أزرار التحكم في منزله، والذي يملك القرار بمقاطعة أي وسيلة إخبارية يعتبرها منحازة أو غير موضوعية. وللإنصاف فقد ساهمت الجزيرة في تطوير الصحافة والإعلام في المنطقة العربية، فتم إنشاء شبكات إعلامية مماثلة، ودفعت بالإعلام المحلي إلى تطوير وتحديث وسائله، وكل هذا ساهم في تمكين الشعوب العربية من المعرفة وبشكل غير مسبوق. ولا يفوتني التركيز في نفس الوقت على مسؤولية وسائل الإعلام بالالتزام باحترام حقوق الإنسان في كل الأوقات، وبشكل خاص عدم بث خطاب الكراهية والتمييز على أي أساس كان، وعدم إذكاء العنف أي كان. فالمؤسسات الإعلامية مطالبة بممارسة رقابة ذاتية فيما يتعلق بخطاب الكراهية في ظل ما تشهده المنطقة من تنامي للطائفية ومن استهداف للأقليات. الزميلات والزملاء، أما في حالات النزاعات فيواجه الصحفيون تحديات جمة للوصول إلى موقع الحدث لتغطيته بأكمل وجه. وقد وثقت المفوضية في تقاريرها للنزاعات المسلحة في المنطقة العربية مئات الحالات لاستهداف الصحفيين من قتل وتعذيب إلى اعتقال واختفاء قسري وغيرها من ضروب التقييد على حرية التعبير والرأي. ولا بد من العمل سريعاً لتعزيز الحماية الدولية للصحفيين في النزاعات المسلحة. إن حرية الإعلام وتعدد وسائل الإعلام يجب أن يواكبها تعزيز للمساحات الديمقراطية، ومن هنا نجدد الدعوة للحكومة القطرية للنظر في السماح في تشكيل النقابات العمالية والمهنية وغيرها من مؤسسات المجتمع المدني، الأمر الذي من شأنه الدفع بمكانة دولة قطر الحقوقية في الإقليم والعالم. وفي الختام لا يسعني إلا أن أتقدم بالشكر للجنة الوطنية القطرية لحقوق الإنسان ممثلة بسعادة الأخ الدكتور علي المري رئيس اللجنة على تنظيم هذا المؤتمر الهام، مؤكداً في الوقت نفسه على التزام مفوضية الأمم المتحدة السامية لحقوق الإنسان بدعم أي جهد أو نشاط يدفع لزيادة هامش الحريات في المنطقة العربية والعالم أجمع. وشكراً جزيلاً.
Thank you, Mr. Nassour. The International Federation of Journalists enjoys in its membership representatives of unions from around the world and has had strong and honorable accomplishments in protecting journalists and freedom of expression, and has previously partnered with the NHRC on the Conference for the Protection of Journalists in Conflict Situations in 2012. I now give the word to Mr. Yunus Mjahid, the Senior Vice President of the IFJ.
Thank you. السيدات والسادة المحترمون، زميلاتي زملائي الكرام، في البداية لا بد أن أقدم خالص الشكر للجنة الوطنية لحقوق الإنسان وللمعهد الدولي للصحافة على تنظيم هذا اللقاء بشراكة مع الفيدرالية الدولية للصحفيين. لقد اتخذنا القرار في الفيدرالية للمساهمة في هذه التظاهرة لعدة اعتبارات. أولها أن علاقتنا باللجنة الوطنية لحقوق الإنسان بدأت منذ سنوات، وأننا تعاملنا مع هذا الإطار ضمن واجبنا الذي يقضي بتشجيع كل المبادرات مهما كانت محدودية سقفها للاعتراف بحقوق الإنسان وخاصة حرية الصحافة والإعلام. ثانيها لأننا أيضاً نرتبط باتفاقية مع قناة الجزيرة للعمل على إدماج الصحفيين في العمل النقابي في فيدراليتنا عبر التنظيمات النقابة الوطنية في بلدانهم الأصلية. ثالثها وهذا هو الأهم، فنحن ندافع عن كرامة الصحفيين أينما كانوا، ونساندهم في الدفاع عن حقوقهم تجاه مشغليهم وكل الأطراف الأخرى، ونسعى إلى تحسين شروط عملهم وحماية سلامتهم عند القيام بواجبهم المهني في كل الظروف بدون أي استثناءات. لذلك نشارك اليوم في هذه الندوة لأننا نريد التعبير بكل صدق وإخلاص عن واجب التضامن مع الصحفيين وكل العاملين في وسائل الإعلام عندما يتعرضون لأي تهديدات، سواء بقطع أرزاقهم أو هضم حقوقهم أو المس بسلامتهم الجسدية وحريتهم أو امتهان كرامتهم. لا تهمنا في القيام بهذه المهمة التي هي واجبنا، ومن أجلها انتخبنا مسؤول النقابات التي نمثلها عبر العالم أي صراعات سياسية بين الأحزاب أو الدول، أو اختلافات إيديولوجية أو مذهبية أو انتماءات عرقية أو طائفية. ما نسعى إليه هو أن نتواجد في كل بقاع العالم للدفاع عن حرية الصحافة وكرامة الصحفيين. انطلاقاً من هذه المبادئ، فإن الفيدرالية الدولية للصحفيين عبرت عن تضامنها بكامل الوضوح مع قناة الجزيرة وصحفييها وكل العاملين فيها تجاه التهديدات التي تعرضت لها، لأننا اعتبرنا أن ما حصل يشكل انتهاكاً لمبادئ حقوق الإنسان وكذا للأعراف والقوانين الدولية. لذلك فالنقابات المنتمية للفيدرالية والتي لها أعضاء من العاملين في هذه القناة ملتزمة بالدفاع عن حقوقهم وكرامتهم. إن المشاركين من الفيدرالية الدولية للصحفيين الذين يمثلون أكثر من 40 نقابة أتوا هنا ليعبروا عن تضامنهم، ولكن أيضاً للمساهمة الفاعلة في النقاش حول كل المحاور المطروحة في هذه الندوة لتأكيد المبادئ التي يلتحمون حولها والعمل الجاد الذي يقومون به في أماكن عملهم وفي الأنشطة النقابية التي يقومون بها وفي التظاهرات التي ينظمونها والاحتجاجات والإضرابات التي يشنونها دفاعاً عن الصحفيين وعن حرية الصحافة. إنهم هنا للتدليل أيضاً على الأهمية القصوى التي تكتسيها الأداة النقابية والتي تعتبر ضرورية لتوفير إطار جامع للدفاع عن حقوقهم والتعبير عن التآزر الذي ينبغي أن يسود بينهم تجاه المشغلين والسلطات وكل الأطراف التي قد تهدد سلامتهم وتمتهن كرامتهم. السيدات والسادة المحترمون، إننا في الفيدرالية الدولي للصحفيين كجزء من الحركة النقابية العالمية نعطي أهمية بالغة للحقوق النقابية ونعتبرها أحد ركائز دولة الحق والقانون وسلاحاً أساسياً في يد الشغيلة لمواجهة كل أشكال الاستغلال من طرف المشغلين وكل أنواع التعسف والتضييق من طرف السلطات. لذلك فإننا لا يمكن إلا أن نؤكد من جديد موقفنا الرافض لكل التشريعات التي تقيد حرية العمل النقابي والدساتير والقوانين التي لا تعترف بحق التنظيم والتجمع وحرية التعبير. كما نرفض مطلقاً كل الإجراءات التي تكرس أنظمة التسلط في مجال الشغل والمرفوضة دولياً لأنها لا تعترف بحق التعاقد وبالضمانات القانونية المعمول بها في أغلب بلدان العالم التي تحترم علاقات الشغل. إن المرجعية الدولية لحقوق الإنسان ترسانة شاملة لا تقبل التجزيء، فهي نظام متكامل يضم حرية التعبير والحقوق النقابية والحق في التنظيم السياسي والتجمع والتظاهر والاحتجاج، ولا يمكن اللجوء عند الحاجة إلى المبادئ الدولية لحرية التنقل أو حرية التعبير وفصلها عن باقي المبادئ الأخرى، لأن هذا قد يخدم فقط مصلحة معينة أو ظرفية. فهذا أسلوب انتقائي يشكل نوعاً من التحايل على مرجعية دولية وأصبح غير مفيد. وبالإضافة إلى دفاعنا عن حرية الصحافة، فإن الفيدرالية تعتبر أن حرية التعبير تشمل كذلك المدونين والكتاب والشعراء وأصحاب الرأي الذين يتعرضون للاعتقال والتعسف بسبب التعبير عن مواقفهم وآرائهم. لقد نجحت فيدراليتنا في ضم أغلب نقابات وجمعيات الصحفيين في البلدان العربية، وتقوم بعمل كبير في هذه المنطقة، سواء تعلق الأمر بالتكوين النقابي مثل المفاوضات حول الاتفاقية الجماعية والتمثيلية النقابية داخل المؤسسات، أو بالتدريب على السلامة وبكل ما يهم حرية الصحافة والإعلام من قوانين وإجراءات وفضح الخروقات والانتهاكات، وكذا كل ما يتعلق بأخلاقيات مهنة الصحافة. وفي هذا الإطار تعمل حالياً على التوقيع من طرف سلطات هذه البلدان ومنظماتها الحقوقية والسياسية والنقابية على إعلان حرية الإعلام في العالم العربي، الذي يتضمن ضرورة ملائمة التشريعات والهياكل والإجراءات في مجالات الصحافة والإعلام مع التجارب المتقدمة في البلدان الديمقراطية، وكذا توفير آلية عربية متوافق بشأنها لحماية هذه الحرية. بفضل كل هذا العمل المتعدد الأبعاد الذي يقوم به الصحفيون في أغلب البلدان العربية، نجحت هذه النقابات في تمتين هياكلها وتوسيع أنشطتها وتقوية إشعاعها بفضل التزامها كذلك بالقواعد والأعراف الدولية في العمل النقابي وحقوق الإنسان وحرية الصحافة، وهي ممثلة في الهياكل القيادية للفيدرالي الدولي للصحفيين. السيدات والسادة، قبل ختام هذه الكلمة لا بد أن أشير إلى بعض التحديات التي تواجه الصحفيين في العالم العربي والتي نتقاسمها مع باقي الصحفيين في العالم، ومن أهمها التحولات التي تفرضها الثورة التكنولوجية على مجالات التواصل وحرية التعبير، لكنها أثرت بشكل سلبي على عمل الصحفيين في الصحافة الورقية ووسائل الإعلام التي أصبحت تسمى كلاسيكية. لقد شهد القطاع الصحفي مغادرة آلاف الصحفيين والعاملين لمناصبهم، وأصبحوا عرضة للبطالة، مما أصبح يهدد مستقبل مهنة الصحافة، حيث تحولت المحركات الكبرى والشبكات التواصلية العالمية إلى منتج للأخبار والبرامج ومحتكر مباشر للإعلانات دون احترام حقوق التأليف والحق في الملكية الفكرية. لكن بالإضافة إلى كل هذا هناك أيضاً المضمون الذي ينتشر فيما ينشر ويبث، وخاصة في الشبكات الاجتماعية، من حملات تحريضية ولا أخلاقية وأخبار مضللة وكاذبة وصور ملفقة. إن مسؤولية الصحافة ووسائل الإعلام كبيرة في مواجهة هذه التحديات، في تزويد المواطن بالأخبار الصحيحة وبالتحليل الجيد وبتطوير صحافة البحث والتقصي والحق في الخبر والتحليل. ولا يمكن أن يأتي هذا إلا بالتدريب المتواصل وبالتكوين المستمر وباستقلالية العمل المهني عن كل التدخلات السياسية والضغوطات المالية وكل أشكال الاحتكار والتمركز. إن التطورات المتواصلة التي يشهدها العالم العربي تثبت الحاجة إلى صحافة ذات مصداقية في خدمة الديمقراطية وحقوق الإنسان والحق في الوصول إلى المعلومات بكل مهنية وشفافية. لكن بالإضافة إلى هذه الأدوار الهامة، فقد تأكد الدور الحاسم لوسائل الإعلام في مواجهة كل أشكال التطرف وكل تعبيرات التشدد والدعوة للكراهية والعنف والإرهاب. فهناك التزامات أخلاقية مفروضة على الصحافة وعلى الصحفيين، من أهمها ألا تتحول الصحافة ووسائل الإعلام إلى ناطق باسم المتشددين أو تلعب دورا تحريضيا، لأن هذا يزيغ بها عن واجبها المهني الذي تحكمه أخلاقيات العمل الصحفي. السيدات والسادة، نحن هنا للتضامن باسم مبادئ الحرية التي هي فلسفة شاملة لا تقبل التجزيء. شكراً على حسن إصغائكم.
Thank you. The International Press Institute is a strong partner for this conference and has a global network of editors, journalists, and media executives dedicating their efforts towards fostering an environment where there are independent media operating freely and working relentlessly to ensure that journalists are protected while fulfilling their function. I give the word now to Mr. John Yearwood, the president of the IPI.
Thank you very much, and good morning. I would like to thank the National Human Rights Commission, Al Jazeera, IFJ, the European Broadcasting Union, and the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights for co-sponsoring this very important conference. The International Press Institute is proud to join the distinguished lineup as a co-sponsor. That was so important to us that IPI board members have flown here from around the world. Also here is IPI's new Deputy Executive Director, Scott Griffin. Please help me welcome them. Our decision to add our name to the list of sponsors was a no-brainer. Since IPI was founded almost 70 years ago, we have spent considerable time and money to protect, defend, and expand the rights of journalists all around the world. As First Lady, former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said many years ago that women's rights are human rights. I couldn't agree more. But if I may paraphrase her a bit, I would say today that journalists' rights are human rights, and human rights are journalists' rights. As has been alluded to before, we meet at a precarious time in history. IPI's tally of journalists killed in the line of duty continues to climb. It stands at 13 so far this year, but there are 38 cases that are under investigation. That's 51 deaths of journalists. Last year, 83 journalists died in the line of duty, including almost 20 who were deliberately targeted. Consider one country, Mexico. There have been 145 cases of murder, disappearances, attempted murder of journalists throughout the country since 2000. The situation is so disturbing that just Friday, Columbia University in New York decided to forego awarding a special citation during the annual Maria Cabot-Moores Awards for Latin America coverage. Instead, the Cabot jury decided to honor all journalists killed in Mexico. In making the announcement, the president of Columbia University, who I'm proud to say is a member of IPI, said, quote, "We are announcing this year's Cabot Prize winners at a time when events in Mexico have raised fresh alarms about the danger intrinsic to independent investigative journalism, reminding us once again of the vulnerability of reporters and the need to stand with them," unquote. These dangers and alarms, of course, are not unique to Mexico. The situation here in the Gulf continues to be troubling. The Saudi-led coalition's call for Al Jazeera News Network to be shut down is an example of the challenges journalists are facing here in the region. Thankfully, the reaction was so swift and the heat so hot that the draconian demand appears to have been rescinded. By the way, the withdrawal of that demand is indicative of what has happened when we all work together. The quick condemnation from press freedom and human rights organizations made a big difference. I talked about the dozens of journalists killed, but as I sit here, hundreds of journalists are languishing in prisons around the world. A delegation from IPI and other press freedom organizations are, as we are here at this moment, in Istanbul, monitoring the trial of 17 journalists, including IPI board member Kadri Gürsel from the newspaper Cumhuriyet. They have been in jail now for almost a year. Given the close relations between Qatar and Turkey, it would be helpful if the Emir raises issues of journalist rights as he meets this week with President Erdogan. A recent census by the Committee to Protect Journalists found that as of December 1st, 2016, there were 259 journalists in jail around the world. That's the highest number since CPJ began taking an annual census in 1990. Given the challenges, this conference could not come at a more appropriate time. Its theme, as they say, is spot on, facing up to the threat. Indeed, we must continue to speak truth to power, even when it's inconvenient. On this, we could all learn from how Qatar stood up to the threat from the Saudi-led coalition. It did not go wobbly, and neither should we. Let me end with a short story about why it's so critical that we continue to be vigilant and not waver. Not long ago, I sat next to the Lebanese journalist May Shediak at an IPI dinner in Amman, Jordan. At one point, she took my hand and pressed it against her left side. You see, May wanted me to know that her leg and arm were prosthetic and that she's a survivor. In 2005, May was almost killed in an assassination attempt after a 1-pound bomb exploded in her car. The left side of her body, from the tip of the fingers of her immaculately painted fingers to her immaculately painted toenails, sustained severe injuries and had to be rebuilt. May thankfully returned stronger than ever and has been a steadfast supporter of IPI and press freedom because, as she told me, we have lots of work to do. As we discuss human rights issues today and tomorrow, my hope is that we not forget May and other victims of efforts to silence us, whether they be here in the Gulf, the wider Middle East region, Africa, Europe, Asia, Latin America, or even the United States. We have lots of work to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yearwood. The European Broadcasting Union is considered the world's leading alliance for public service media, priding itself with members from 56 European countries and many more associates around the world. Their work is devoted to making public service media indispensable and to strengthen their services through sharing and learning. I now give the word to Mr. Giacomo Mizzoni of the European Broadcasting Union.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this kind invitation and for this timely initiative promoted by Human Rights Commission of Qatar. We are very happy to be here. We prefer not to be here in reality, but because of the circumstances, we have to be here. Because the European Broadcasting Union that exists since 67 years is a place where we try, among all of the members, to stick to a certain number of values. We reshuffle the list of the values that are to be defended by public service broadcasters just 5 years ago. And for sure, in this list, there is the quality of journalism and independence of media at the first row, because it's the most substantial point for media. We face in this moment many different endeavors. As Younes mentioned before, the main problem we have to face in this field is the business model that are completely melting in various sectors, and starting from the printed media to the broadcasting. But of course, today we are here for another reason, the right to existence, that comes first. Then you can, once that you have the right to existence, you can decide how to survive in this environment. But the first thing is to exist. And this is the reason why we are engaged as EBU in many activities for safety of journalists. That is the right of formal right to existence. We are with UNESCO in the interagency activities for supporting the safety of journalists. We are with the initiative that is now at the Secretary General level for creating a special representative. We are part of the Council of Europe platform for safety of journalists and journalism. And we, in most of these initiatives, we are with all the other partners that are here, with the IFJ, with the EFJ, with IPI, etc., etc. Every time that there is an attack to journalists, we are there. When the IPI made a campaign for the Jazeera office in Cairo, we were there and we supported, because this is part of our DNA. The existence of the journalists and making their work free is the precondition for democracy and for any social coexistence. But unfortunately, the problems repeat everywhere. Not all the countries are so lucky like Qatar to be in condition to host a conference like this. I think to Africa, where this kind of problem exists, not at this magnitude, but every day, and unfortunately we tend to forget. The EBU is not is isolated case because we are part of a network that covers all the world that is called WBU. WBU, World Broadcasting Union, is composed not only by the Europeans that we represent, but also by ABU, Asia Pacific Broadcasting Union, that covers all the Asia, and ASBU, that is a regional union for Arab-speaking countries. We have, as EBU, also all the Mediterranean countries broadcasters as members in Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, Jordan, and Lebanon. Jazeera is not member of any of this network. In ABU, in ASBU, there is Qatar, or National Broadcasting Organization, but not Jazeera. Personally, I think that this is a mistake because the unions are there to defend you when you are alone, when you are in troubles. And I remember the old Indians say that if you want to go faster, you go alone, but if you want to go safer and farther, you need to go together. I hope that this message will be heard and will be bring forward. I remember, for instance, that in our region, in Europe, there was the case of the Greek television that was shut down from overnight by the government, pretending that this was for savings and recovering the economy. In reality, it was a way to censor the expression of the journalists, to try to silence their voice in the country. All of the European Broadcasting Union Director General and President stand up against this initiative. We're there in Greece to witness their support to ERT. And in fact, ERT, after some months of silence, start to be again at his place, and is there today. This, just to remember how important this is. So, if Jazeera is not a member of our unions, why I'm here? That's a good question. The first answer is Jim. Because of course, if Jim asks something, we have to run everywhere because Bumela is for us a reference everywhere. But also this is because I have an important neighbor in my place in Geneva where I live. I live in a village that is just a few kilometers away from Ferney. Ferney was the castle was the castle of Voltaire. Voltaire, as you remember, has a phrase that was not his phrase, but was a phrase attributed to him from one biography that says, even if I don't agree with what you say, I will give my life to guarantee you the right to say what you want to say. It's too nice to be true because it was not the original Voltaire phrase, but reflect exactly that thinking. And this is the reason why I'm here today, to support the rights of everybody, including those that we can agree or not agree to express themselves. And I want to say another thing just to remember you, that history comes in circle. Voltaire, when he built this castle, he left Paris and he went there very far from Paris and from Versailles for a very simple reason, safety. He has this property that is a large property with the castle in the middle and two entrances. One entrance was in France and the second was in Switzerland. When there was a problem with the king because of one of his books, he took his coach and he ran through the Switzerland exit into Canton de Genève that was protected from the king of France. Probably today you are facing a situation that's very similar to that. You have to go not in horse coach, but you have to go through Qatar Airways that is faster and more comfortable. But as you see, problems comes in circle and you need to prevent as much as possible. And if we can help in preventing this problem and avoiding that this problem become crisis, we are here to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mazzoni. So the Human Rights Watch is a much appreciated partner of the NHRC and is world-renowned for its accurate fact-finding, impartial reporting, and effective use of media and targeted advocacy. The organization has been working for decades towards the promotion and protection of human rights globally, and in ensuring that all rights are protected. I give the word now to Mr. Kenneth Roth, the Executive Director of Human Rights Watch.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Political freedom, and especially free expression, are very much at the heart of the crisis facing Qatar today. The National Human Rights Committee was very timely in holding this conference because I think it recognized that the support of the human rights community and of the journalistic community have been key to Qatar's ability to move through and survive this crisis. And I think, Dr. Ali, that the holding of this conference reflects recognition on Qatar's part that it needs to maintain the moral high ground in order to maintain this critical support from rights activists around the world. And so I take this conference as an important sign of commitment on Qatar's part to engage in some of the reforms that would enable it to maintain that moral high ground. Now, let me begin with an aside. I think we're all aware that allegations of terrorist financing are said to be the foremost concern behind this crisis today and behind some of the demands on Qatar. Now, I can't speak to secret financing, but I am very aware of long-term open Saudi financial support for the promotion and the teaching of an extreme form of Islam, of Wahhabism or Salafism, that today lies behind the ideology used by many of the terrorist groups around the world. I'm also very aware that while we often don't talk about governments as engaging in terrorist acts, we use that term mainly to refer to non-governmental groups, that nonetheless the Saudi-led coalition has been indiscriminately killing Yemeni civilians. Its blockade is imposing huge humanitarian hardship, including malnutrition and starvation, on millions of Yemenis. And the human suffering and indeed the weakening of the population has become so severe that Yemen today faces the largest cholera epidemic in the world, one that is dwarfing even Haiti's recent outbreak. So I say that by way of background, but we're here mainly to discuss free expression and the broader set of political freedoms. I think it is telling that the leading demands placed on Qatar by its neighbors involved these political rights. The most obvious was the demand to close, or at least to control, Al Jazeera. Now, in a region that has been known for its stultifying official media, Al Jazeera was a breath of fresh air. It wasn't always perfect. Certain issues, particularly in the Gulf, including about Qatar, were taboo. And in giving voice to certain neglected individuals, Al Jazeera did sometimes cross the line from featuring legitimate dissenters to giving a forum to those who advocated violence. But overall, Al Jazeera was a key forum for those who wanted to challenge the autocratic rule that remains the norm in most of the Middle East and North Africa. Reaching its heyday during the Tahrir Square revolution in Egypt, it gave people throughout the region a means to be heard when challenging autocratic, unresponsive, and often corrupt rulers. Al Jazeera was, and continues to be, a dictator's nightmare. Now, the second key demand placed on Qatar by its neighbors involved support for the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, I think we all know that the Muslim Brotherhood means different things in its different manifestations. Some have indeed involved attacks on civilians or intolerance of dissent. I'm thinking here foremost of Hamas in Gaza. But the essence of what the Gulf monarchs found dangerous about the Muslim Brotherhood is that it represents a vision of Islamic governance based on the ballot box rather than hereditary, or in the case of Egypt, military rule. Now, like Al Jazeera, the Muslim Brotherhood saw a role for the general public in political discourse and governance. That is a scary proposition for the Gulf royal families and Egypt's military rulers. It is noteworthy, thus, that Qatar was willing to support the Muslim Brotherhood, since this country is no more a democracy than the other Gulf monarchies, but I hope that this signals an openness to considering more pluralistic forms of governance. For those other monarchies, the Muslim Brotherhood was anathema. Indeed, beyond pressuring Qatar to stop supporting Al Jazeera and the Muslim Brotherhood, the Saudi, Emirati, Bahraini, and Egyptian governments have rounded up their own Muslim Brotherhood supporters. And Bahrain and the UAE have even gone so far as threatening to punish anyone who expresses sympathy for Qatar. So at its heart, the current tensions between Qatar and its neighbors are very much about free expression and political freedom. Yet I would be remiss speaking here in Qatar if I left the impression that Qatar was beyond reproach with respect to free expression. Let me give you a few examples. In 2014, Qatar adopted a cybercrime decree which criminalizes the spreading of fake news on the internet and provides for a maximum of 3 years in prison for anyone who posts online contents that are deemed to, quote, violate social values or principles, end quote, or, quote, to insult or slander others, end quote. These are obviously very broad, vague, and subjective standards. Now, in 2015, Qatari authorities used that decree to detain a journalist from the country's only independent news website, Doha News, after he wrote an article naming a man convicted of a serious criminal offense. And then to top it off, in November 2016, less than a year ago, Qatari authorities ordered internet service providers to block the Doha News website, even though Doha News has been running since 2010. But as of today, or as of then, it is inaccessible to internet users in Qatar. Needless to say, these are not the acts of a government that should be trying to take the moral high ground in a dispute about free expression. We hope that as soon as possible, Qatar will repeal the provisions of the 2014 cybercrime law that limit free expression, and that it will unblock the Doha News website. There also is a question of Qatar's role in the world with respect to free expression. I think we're all aware that perhaps the key international governmental supporter of Qatar has been Turkey. And this week, the Qatari Emir will be meeting with the Turkish President Erdogan. This is an ideal opportunity for Qatar to raise its concerns about the grave violations of free expression taking place in Turkey today. Indeed, Turkey is probably the world's largest jailer of journalists. So as Qatar places itself forward as a champion of freedom of expression here in the Gulf, let it not forget its role in the region to press the Turkish government to stop its severe restraints on journalistic freedoms there. Let me also just note that there are a few other important things that Qatar could do here in the country to ease the burden of those who have been harmed by its disputes with its neighbors. And in particular, I'm thinking here of the Al Jazeera journalists who are resident here in Doha. Human Rights Watch released a report last week on the plights of families in Qatar who are facing separation because they are of different nationalities. Now, that problem is compounded by the fact that Qatar, like its neighbors, allows nationalities to be passed only by men, not by women. Now, that, I should note, is a violation of Article 9 of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, or CEDAW, to which Qatar is a state party. But to give an example, if a Qatari woman is married to a non-Qatari, her children have no citizenship rights in this country, leaving them vulnerable to pressure from Qatar's Gulf neighbors. Those neighbors have already ordered their nationals to leave Qatar, which could include then children of Qatari women who are married to a man from one of those states, even though those children may well have spent their entire lives in Qatar. Now would be a very good time for Qatar to end the gender discrimination in the right to confer nationality on people's children. And here I want to make a special mention of the plight of a handful of Al Jazeera workers who have come here as refuge from persecution for their work in other regional countries. Human Rights Watch interviewed 14 Al Jazeera employees, including 7 Egyptians, 6 Saudis, and 1 Bahraini, who said that they cannot renew their passports and thus are worried about losing their Qatari residency permits. Many of the Egyptian employees moved to Qatar after authorities in Egypt threatened, intimidated, beat, or arrested them. One journalist said he had even applied to renew his Egyptian passport in January, but the Egyptian embassy official told him in April that he would not be able to do that. His passport expires next month, and he's worried that with it would go his right to stay in Doha. These Al Jazeera employees are classic refugees who need protection. Now, Qatar's constitution bans the extradition of political refugees, and it specifies that the granting of asylum should be regulated by law. But Qatar has never promulgated a law on asylum or signed the 1951 Refugee Convention and its 1967 protocol, despite Qatar having ratified the Arab Charter on Human Rights, which requires Qatar to respect the right of everyone to seek asylum. Nor does the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, have an office here in Qatar which would allow it to review refugee claims. And Qatar has no other procedures in place that would allow those who fear persecution in their home countries to seek protection here in Qatar or to challenge their deportation. This crisis provides Qatar with an opportunity to become a leader in the Gulf and to reaffirm its commitment to protect people like the Al Jazeera employees by ratifying the Refugee Convention and Protocol, establishing refugee and asylum laws consistent with those standards, and inviting UNHCR to open up an office here. So I'll conclude just by noting that there are very important things that Qatar can do to maintain the critical moral high ground in this dispute with its neighbors. There's an old adage that in every crisis, there's an opportunity. Yes, Qatar faces a crisis today, but it is also an opportunity for Qatar to become a genuine regional leader in human rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. We conclude our esteemed panel of speakers with Dr. Ali bin Asmikh al-Marri, President of the National Human Rights Committee in Qatar. The NHRC is an internationally recognized human rights institution, independent from the government and accredited with status A by the Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions, ensuring its compliance with the Paris Principles that guides NHRIs. The main mission for the NHRC is the protection and promotion of human rights for everyone, subject to the jurisdiction of the State of Qatar. I now give the word to Dr. Ali.
أصحاب السعادة، السيدات والسادة، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يسرني أن أرحب بكم